All right, here's a big one. How do we regulate our blood pressure as bodybuilders? And the reason that I specify as bodybuilders is because, again, the common misconception is that we don't take care of ourselves, we don't monitor our health, that it's do or die, all or nothing, everything for the sake of just being a meathead. And it's not true. Yeah, there are guys that are like that, but they're, I don't know, it's pretty much most of your bigger guys that really have acquired some serious size. Most of your bigger guys, they know what they're doing. They have the knowledge and the education, and the information. They know what they're doing. They've got it all together. They've put it together. And that includes the shit that they need to do to stay healthy. And it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about anabolics. Even TRT for an older guy. That's why a lot of doctors are hesitant to prescribe TRT. They're hesitant to prescribe it. Some guys are, it used to be that a lot of doctors were behind the learning curve a little bit with it, but I think most are up to speed now. Most still will be hesitant to prescribe it, and a large reason to that is that the majority, more often than not, older guys are already on other prescription drugs for other afflictions, high blood pressure or high cholesterol medications or enlarged prostate or God knows what all else. Maybe they're on blood thinners or who knows what all else. So that really complicates matters. You start to come up with this stew with all these various chemical ingredients in it, and they do interact. And it's hard to predict what's going to happen, and a lot of doctors are not going to want to handle that liability. But for a healthy guy, and we're in the minority as far as older guys. If you're an older guy, you're not on any of these medications. Most likely you can get a prescription if your testosterone's low today. Anyway, so you get your prescription, you're on your testosterone, or you're treating yourself, which I understand it, but I don't completely recommend it, Again, it's your life and it's your body. You can decide what the quality of life needs to be for you, and it's completely your decision, Some people smoke reefer. I don't do it. People exalt the benefits. I guess I'm just missing out. I did it when I was a kid, and I'm just not. It's not something I partake of. I'm not into it. But there are people that do it, and that's their business. It's the same thing here as far as I'm concerned. The same with the erectile dysfunction drugs. Right, as you get older. Same with erectile dysfunction drugs. Why would you use an erectile dysfunction drug as you get older? Why would you care about a little erectile dysfunction, old man? Haven't you lived enough life? Haven't you laid enough pipe yet? Well, it falls back to quality of life. Like what I'm always talking about. Older guys, you're not ready to crawl in the box and just lay there. See, there are different stages to this. Some guys just crawl. They're willing to get in the box. Society insists you're going to lay in that box. You're at least just get in there and check it out and see how it fits. And they'll lay in that box until finally the lid gets closed. But a lot of older guys are not ready to climb in that box, not even ready to climb in it, let alone get in it and close the lid. So we're still out here trying to live. And so that's why if you have issues, you may treat them with an erectile dysfunction drug. You may choose to do that. Why? Because life continues on. Tomorrow is a new day. And if you want to live wholly and completely, that might include your ability to be able to have physical relations with another human being, successfully. Okay? So, but you got your haters, you got your busters out there always going to decry everything and anything. So this video, and I'm probably going to hear some bullshit about this, but I couldn't care less. Could not care less. It's no secret. Now it's becoming common knowledge, the use of Tadalafil citrate. It goes under the trade name of Cialis, but that's the That's the actual drug, chemical. Tadalafil citrate, the use of it in bodybuilding. A lot of people are knowing about it now, but it's been going on for a long time. And in fact, I was hipped to it. It made sense to me to do it, but I hadn't heard anybody else doing it yet. So, because I'm all about the pump, I'm all about the vasodilation. But then it was affirmed to me by a man who even still currently is consistently always a top 10 finisher in the Olympia Open class, always. And he was a big advocate of that. He used the shit out of it. And when I asked about it, he affirmed and confirmed everything I suspected and more. And I found out that a lot of people, a lot of guys, are using it to control their blood pressure. Now, if you go to look up any of this stuff and chase any of this information down, you're going to find contradictory information all over the place. You'll find, one resource is going to tell you that it lowers blood pressure. Another resource is going to tell you that it can raise blood pressure, cause blood pressure problems in some men. And then, like I just said, different compounds and substances you may be on, prescriptions or otherwise, can interact with other things. So then it's kind of an open ball game. You don't know, what's going to happen. Just to a large extent. If you start to get too much of a mix in there, you really don't know what's doing what too much. But it's regular, almost commonplace now for guys to use Tadalafil to control their blood pressure. Because when you throw it in the mix of a guy that already uses various nitrates and nitric oxide precursors and things, like in my case L-arginine, it really, really is enough to have a substantive and certainly quantifiable effect that you will experience a reduction in blood pressure, control your blood pressure when you're on that TRT. And that's important. That's very important. Now, I have a list here because there's so many. These are the reported advantages to tadalafil citrate. First, I also want to tell you it's been used to treat various other diseases under other brand names now, but the same active chemical ingredients, the same thing. But they've been treating, let me get the terminology correct, arterial hypertension, pulmonary arterial hypertension. They've been using it to treat that. Now, contrary to what some people are going to tell you, a lot of people are going to tell you that it enhances blood flow everywhere, and maybe so, but not equally. Not equally. Particular parts of the body, particular types of tissues, it specifically has a much more drastic effect than in others. But one of the things that it does is, as far as nutrient partitioning and the vasodilation and transportation as a transport mechanism, it's really strong there. So, of course, it's going to assist you in your pumps and all this other stuff. But let me give you a list of some of the positive aspects. And I've talked about Tadalafil previously, how they have been experimenting using it with patients with Becker's muscular dystrophy, because it enables them to get a pump. And the whole problem was they believed that people that had Becker's muscular dystrophy, the reason their muscles wasted away so much, and they couldn't really offset that by any amount of exercise because they could not get a pump. And even in the medical community, medical professionals that are in the field that understand this, that this is their specialty, will tell you, basically in layman's terms, no pump, no successful muscular development. No. So is the pump important? Yes. That would be, at this point, it's completely ridiculous for people to try and negate the meaningfulness and importance of a pump, a good pump. But they brought it all down to nitric oxide, an issue with nitric oxide. They believed, and this is how much they really don't know specifically, even to this very day, contrary to what these other people are going to tell you, that aren't really in the field doing it, but they research and they read and they get on there with their pencil neck and their Adam's apple ripping through their side of their neck, and they're going to tell you that this is a fact and that is a fact because I read it in this literature. Well, yeah, not always at all. In fact, the majority of studies that you might point to today, in 10 years, they'll be reversed. They'll find out that there's contradictory proof of just the opposite is going on, really, that we didn't really understand what we were doing when we came to that conclusion, or the study was flawed in some way, shape, or form, whatever. It happens all the time. In the field, they realized when they were looking at these patients with Becker's MD that they couldn't get a pump. They attributed that to they were not producing nitric oxide. So this is the point. They couldn't tell if they were or not. They concluded that they must not be producing nitric oxide, must not be able to manufacture that in their bodies. Well, it turns out when they treated them with Tadalafil, citrate, trade name Cialis, all of a sudden they could get a pump, and they have been successful to a degree at staving off muscle wasting, slowing it down this way now by treating them with Tadalafil. Because it turns out now that all along they could produce nitric oxide, but some mechanism, enzyme, whatever have you, prevented them from enjoying the uptake of that nitric oxide. It was there, they could produce it, but it wasn't available to be used. So the Tadalafil, when they treated them with that, it not only it gave them the ability that now they could experience a pump and they could use the nitric oxide their body was already producing. Right? So my point is, the science, even to this very day, is so inexact in many cases, and we understand so little actually of the overall picture when you're getting down to details that they didn't know. They suspected they didn't produce nitric oxide and they couldn't tell otherwise. And it turns out all along they do produce it, they just didn't have access to it. They couldn't employ it as you and I would. So that's one given benefit. It taking nitric oxide. Okay, no brainer. It's going to give you a big pump. But here are some other, I had to make a list. Here are some of the attributed benefits, and I'm not going to yay or nay any of these. I'm just saying these are various people. These are some of the alleged benefits of Tadalafil. It reduces inflammation, improves testosterone to estrogen ratio. They accredit it to be by as much as or up to 30%. Reduces risk of cardiovascular disease, prevents buildup of plaque in arteries, of course. It's vasodilator. Has antidepressant properties. Increases blood flow or improves blood flow. Optimum nutrient transport and cell volumization. Lowers blood pressure. Reduces risk of prostate enlargement. And harder and better quality erections. So these all sound like really awesome things. So am I here to tell you that this miracle substance, you can take it, you're going to experience all of these, to your knowledge, you're going to be aware of it and experience all these things? No, I'm not going to tell you that because I don't know that you will, but what I'm telling you is that in my experience, I have employed it to keep my blood pressure consistent and keep it down. When I'm doing various things that would affect it in the opposite way. I'm running a lot of sodium or, with the TRT where it's at or, any number of things. Keep that blood pressure under control. It's very important, especially for older guys. It's important for everybody. It's a big killer. Keep that blood pressure under control. So between the 2 baby aspirin in the morning that I take and the Cialis that I supplement regularly, it's become really a bodybuilding ancillary. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm not so sure about some of these attributed benefits, and likewise there are detriments attributed to it as well. But in my personal experience and the personal experience of those who I personally know, not that I've read about, but know, I don't have any real negative side effects to report. Now, some people experience congestion, and if you have that, you can treat that with Benadryl, So it's just something to consider. It's there. Many times men who are on blood pressure lowering medications, when they are prescribed Cialis by their doctor, they are told by their doctor, they're prescribed a daily version, which is a lower dose that you could take every day. And they're told by the doctor, in many cases, reportedly, because I have to say reportedly, I'm not a medical doctor myself, to not take their usual evening dose of the blood pressure medication when they substitute the Tadalafil instead. So, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm no doctor. I'm not a doctor, far from it. If I had any brains, I would have probably stayed in school and become a doctor or a lawyer or something, because it might be hard for some people out there to take if you're a medical professional or you are a lawyer, but they get paid when they're right, when they're wrong, when they succeed, when they fall short or fail. Whereas in my trade, if I can't fix it for you to satisfy you, I don't get paid. I got to keep coming back and doing it again, right, for free on my dime. Luckily, fortunately, I've been at it long enough, it doesn't really happen. Anyhow, that's it. Take it for what it's worth. Something to consider. I would certainly consider it if I were, especially an older guy dealing with high blood pressure issues. Might be a good alternative to help regulate blood pressure. A lot goes along with this. If you don't have a means of taking your own blood pressure, if you don't have a means of checking your blood sugar, and that has nothing to do with this. It's just I throw it in there because these are all staple implements that, in my opinion, an older guy should be capable of. These items should be in your toolbox. All right, you guys take care. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will be back shortly.